Welcome to another episode of Money Motivations with Meltrice, where you come to be empowered, inspired, educated, and motivated. I am excited to be here with our guest today, Andrea Wilson, Brick House Realty, the real estate mogul, my girl. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's an entrepreneur. I mean, she does it all. I'm happy to have you here today as my guest. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's get straight to it. As I mentioned when I introduced you, you're a mother, you're a wife. I met your beautiful children. You're an entrepreneur. You own a brokerage firm, right? You are a teacher. You're an adjunct instructor. Like, how do you do it all? Tell us about the woman behind all of that.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I just take everything day by day. It's a long time coming, and I think it is the biggest thing with trying. First of all, let me say this. People always talk about balance, and I don't think that there's balance. I don't think that you can want a couple things in your life, but it's hard for everything to be at the top. Like, you could want the perfect family or the perfect business, but something always falls short when you're kind of going through the process. And so I take it day by day, and I figured out a long time ago what my priority is. And so my top priority for me is going to be my family first, making sure that my husband is good and making sure that my kids are good. And then everything else just has to fall in line with that. And I am really good with time blocking, and time management is a major piece of it.
Good. So you said something like you determine what your priorities are, and your first priority is to your family. So how does that line up with all of the other demands on your life? Like, how do you accomplish those? Is it through the time blocking?
Well, I guess let me say first, I feel like if I put more emphasis on, let's just say, the business piece of it, I'm successful in my business, but I feel like if I made the business more of a priority, and I don't want to make it sound like it's not a priority because I work all the time, but I feel like if I would have put as much work as I have into my family, into the business, have that amount of time commitment, I could be even further along in business. But I'm not disappointed in taking the route that I have, because when I look at my family and my children and where they are today, it has 1,000% paid off.
Wow.
When I look at my kids, I've always made them priority of wanting to be present. That is the whole reason I became an entrepreneur, is to be able to spend more time with my children.
Right.
And so I didn't want to fall in the trap of becoming an entrepreneur, but then when you look at your family dynamic, everything else falls apart. The kids are, out in the streets or on drugs or don't have that support, or the family dynamic is kind of dysfunctional. Whereas I've taken the route of, if a business thing or my kids had sports, I was going to do the sports. And then if I can make it to this other event, then I would do that. And when you're going through that process, you don't know what to expect, because you're just going through those emotions. So you don't know if that's going to pay off for you later. But now I am living proof of it has paid off. When I look at my oldest daughter, she was in the military now. She owns her own investment property. She graduated from Kent.
Is that Ariane?
That is Ariane, yep.
She's a sweet girl. She is really sweet girl.
She graduated from Kent. She has a degree. So far, I have 3 kids going into college, and they're all I have 4 children. But of the 4, 3 are either been through college or in college, and they're going to leave college with no student loan debt.
Wow.
And my son, who's following that, he just closed on his second investment property. And people ask all the time, like, oh my goodness, your kids, they see, because I invested so much time with them.
Wow.
So now I'm seeing that all of the hard work and I can't just say it's me, just me. I have the honor and privilege to have a husband. Too often, I know so many single women who say, like, I don't need a man, or I don't, I can raise.
I need a man. I want a man. I love my man. All of that.
And they don't understand
Yeah.
how important the male figure is as
Yeah.
part of that family dynamic. And I know that it's not always possible, but
And it's not always positive.
Yes.
Just because a male figure is there doesn't mean that he's adding a positive, in some positive value to the family dynamic just because he's there. But if he is positive.
So, I mean, part of a bigger conversation, even with that, I think people jump into relationships and ignore signs and signals that was already there, that maybe they would not be a good partner, a good parent. And so those signs are ignored. And now you got in a situation where you're a single mom, or you're with your kids, and like he's a horrible dad with no sign. He's somebody you shouldn't have been with in the first place.
Okay, you going there. I went to the CRJ's conference and they talked about that a little bit. I forgot what guy that was on the panel, but he said oftentimes we pray that God brings us somebody, and then when people show up, we forget to ask God if this was the person that he brought us. And then we dive deep in, and then by the time we look up and ask God again, we realize that this wasn't the person that God brought us in the first place.
Absolutely.
Now, we a kid later, we all entangled and everything like that. So you're absolutely right. It's like taking the time to make
and
sure.
I'm not throwing stones. My oldest daughter has a different father. And when I look back, in my life, I didn't have that proper guidance back then. But then I've found, my husband now, and it's like night and day. So I think if more conversations were had, especially around our young people, of just kind of prioritizing and making sure that you're on track as far as financially for yourself, and kind of what that plan is, and making sure that partner is in alignment with what you want to do in those goals.
And I love that. And the thing is, it's never too late. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I'm not with my children's father either. And I agree, like, I did not do the right things. I did not vet properly. We were young. There were a lot of variables that caused that demise. But the lack of guidance and all of that kind of stuff. But the point is even if you found yourself in a situation where maybe you're a single mother, it's never too late. Mm-hmm. It's never too late to say, I know my worth, I know what I deserve, I know what I'm trying to accomplish, and the partner that I need to be able to accomplish that. So it's good that you found it the second time around.
Absolutely.
So did I. Yes. Okay. No, but thank you for that. I think that's really important, because oftentimes, I'm an entrepreneur after, like, I started my entrepreneurial journey when my second child was almost leaving the house.
Okay.
And so it gave me a lot more capacity to dive in head first. Mm-hmm. I mean, because now I don't have the to balance that whole balancing act, because I was very clear about wanting to be present with my children, wanting to go to the games. And even as a single mom, there were times where I couldn't do it, and I felt guilty. That mommy guilt was always luring in the background, but I tried to make it to as much as I could. And I think that does add value to your children's upbringing. So that's amazing you did that. But this was interesting about you when I was reading your bio. You have an accounting background like me. Mm-hmm. And then you have, I think that makes you unique in the real estate. Because as I'm working with your daughter, I'm working with her daughter, you guys. She's helping me find my next rental property, investment property rather, and she's been amazing. Shout out to Ariane, but even when I talk to her, she's like, "Let me run the numbers," and I know she got that from you. Mm-hmm. Running the numbers is so important because it will help prevent you from getting into the wrong deal or prioritize the right things. So tell me how, one, you went from accounting to real estate and how you think those things intertwine.
So I was corporate accountant forever, and I actually didn't like it.
Oh my God. I love it.
I'm a people person.
Yeah.
And so what I didn't like, so I did a lot of general accounting, as I'm sure you're familiar with. So it kept me in my office behind a closed door in front of a computer. And to be honest, most of my managers were all men. And so I had children, small children then. And when you have kids at home and one gets sick, it runs through the house.
Yeah.
And so today it might be one of the kids, tomorrow it's the other one, like a stomach virus or whatever it is. And I started feeling guilty when I would go to my manager, male manager, his wife is probably at home. And I started feeling guilty about, or wanting to go to leave to be at the kids' sports at like 4. May I please go? Like, and it shouldn't be like that. And they didn't understand. So I got to a point I had to do something different. So initially, before getting my real estate license, I just wanted to be an investor in real estate. We wanted to buy properties, fix it up, and have rental properties. But as part of that process, I felt like I needed to get my real estate license because I wanted to learn everything about the business, and I just naturally felt like that's where I needed to start. And my manager at the time, I was at a small business, just was kind of harassing me, and I just didn't like it. So I passed the test for my real estate exam, went to work the next day, and I quit my job.
Wow.
Do not recommend this for anyone.
I was about to say, how courageous.
Didn't even tell my husband.
Oh, wow.
We had just built a new house. And we had just had our 3rd child at this time. It was a little baby. And I don't know if it was postpartum or what, but I went to work and passed that test and said, I quit. That's how fed up I was.
Yeah,
and so went back home, told my husband I quit. He like, oh, okay. But he was very supportive in that sense because he knew ultimately what our goal was. So the plan was for at least for a year, let's see how this worked out. And story for another day. But my tip for anyone that wants to become an entrepreneur, you have to have a plan in place, and you really don't want to just dive into as much as you want to. You want to try to work that 9 to 5 and work in that new business that you're trying to build, and then eventually leave your 9 to 5 once the business becomes stable, or just have a large savings in place to do that. So I did it about a year, and I took a lot of bumps and bruises that first year, and it got very stressful for me because as much as I love my husband and I know he has my back, I have just been always raised that as a female, as a woman, you have your own, thing kind of going on. Yeah. I am a worker. I mean, that is a lifestyle for some to be like a housewife. That's not my goal.
Right.
And so if I'm starting a business, either I'm a partner in that business or I'm running the business. Right. And I hate to sound like that, but
why do you hate to sound like that? I love that you sound like that. It's okay.
Right, yes. I guess so, right?
Yes.
But what happened in that year was I started feeling, I don't want to say guilty, but I guess a sense of guilt, like, because I'm not producing in the way that I'm used to producing. I made really good money in accounting. That wasn't the complaint at all. But I wanted something more, right? And I wanted to be a business owner myself. I feel like in the Black community where there's not enough business owners, we're so accustomed to working for someone else. So it was hard. So probably about a year and a half after being in a business, I went back to work. And I was like, maybe real estate is not for me. Because it was, right. It became very stressful. Yeah. So I took maybe about another year off, and because I needed to get my mindset back on track, because I took a lot of bumps and bruises, and I started telling myself, like, you're not good enough. This is not for you. But when I took that year off, I started making more money myself. And when you start making money, you start to be able to be clear on a lot of things. Yeah. When you're broke, and I was broke in the sense of I wasn't making money myself. Yeah. Or enough money myself. Yeah. That my thoughts started to become cloudy. But when I went back to work, I got everything back on track. Everything's running smoothly. Now I just was ready to come back, but I built a different plan around that.
Yeah.
And then I never looked back after that point.
Wow, you hit on a lot of points. You hit on a lot of points. One, you hit on you just quit your job, like you were fed up. And oftentimes I tell people, like, you need at least 6 months of your basic living expenses saved for moments like that where you're like, I am literally about to lose my mind if I don't say bye today, right? But a lot of people don't have that to fall back on, so they can't. They have to stay in a situation that's detrimental to their mental health and their wellness. So I'm getting off a little bit of script here, but talk to me, because I want to unpack that. Like, you and your husband had enough where, although you kind of maybe pulled it in a bit, had enough to sustain your family for over a year while you kind of explored your interest in real estate. What did you guys do to lead up to that point, get to that point?
He took on everything at that time. So he's always been an entrepreneur. When I met him, he was an entrepreneur. Maybe when he was a teenager, so he always ran a business. So it was kind of interesting because he's in construction now, he does real estate, he went to school. So around this time where I'm transitioning, he kind of was transitioning too, to go into carpentry school. But he owned an automotive detail business for many years.
Wow.
And was very successful in that. So he just took on everything, all of the expenses, all of the burdens, around the house. And so we just managed it that way.
Could you have done it without him?
I wouldn't have been able to do it without.
You wouldn't have been able to do it without him. And that is so interesting, because I feel the same way. And I think more or less about, my husband had the good insurance. You know what I'm saying? Like, although from a fiscal perspective, I had saved enough money where I could do it. But like, if you think comprehensively, if you think about the dental and the vision and the medical insurance and all of the things that you need, all of the things that can go wrong, especially when you're a mother, your children needing to go to the doctor, like, there is no way I could have done it without him or some type of government assistance. So that's really interesting, because that risk, you have to take that risk in order to get the reward. And
I was at my
really
breaking
scary
point, and I felt like I was at a point in time in my life that if I didn't do it then, it was never going to happen.
Wow.
So it was either I was going to dive more into the accounting world, which was not 100% of my passion.
Yeah.
It's a part of me and everything that I do today. And I think as like a business woman, I think as being in real estate and running numbers, it's a big part of that. But I had just reached a point that I felt that if I didn't make that move and transition into entrepreneurship then it wasn't going to happen.
Wow. I'm so proud to hear that story. Wow, that's really courageous. And so you did it, you felt like it didn't work, and then you went back to work. And how long did you stay at work at that time?
I went back and stayed for a year.
A whole another year. And then you're like, I can't.
And then I was ready. I had clarity then. I was bringing in some money. I paid off. When you're going through that phase, I'm racking up credit card debt, because a lot of that I'm living
You're
off
funding
credit cards.
your dreams.
Yeah, so have credit card debt. So me going back to work, I was able to pay off the debt that I had and just get back on track. And it's almost was like a reset for myself. And initially starting out, I didn't think that I was going to go back into real estate because I was defeated.
Yeah, talk about that real quick, because you said that you was like, you had got in your head like, maybe this is not for you, you're not good at this. How did you work through what I often call your inner me being your enemy? Because you hear from yourself more than you hear from anybody else. And if you have that negative self-talk, you can talk yourself out of any amazing idea. But if you can shift that to something more positive, then you can you get the courage to leap into your dream. So how did you make that shift?
It was hard because another piece of this was when the family around and the friends around us hear that and around a family that is used to working a 9 to 5 job hears or sees from the outside that your wife leaves a good accounting job.
I can't imagine the family chatter. I cannot imagine it.
They would have side conversations with my husband, like, you need to make her go back to work. Instead of being supportive and wrapping their arms around me to say, we need to get this girl some business.
Yes.
They were talking to him like, you good? You need to tell her to go back to work. So you have a piece of that, which was always supportive. Like, no, we're good over here. And so you had a lot of that going on. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I do need to go back to work because that is good money. So you start telling yourself all of these things and start believing that.
That had to be hard.
Yeah. And then I'm working the business and I encountered some challenging clients, some situations in the real estate world that was kind of discriminatory, and dealing with all of that.
What about employees?
And so it was just a lot to deal with. But I think that it was the clarity. It was just the mental break where I could give myself a break, because when you're going through that position, when I was still working 100% as an entrepreneur, and you're not making money on there, then you become so focused on the fact that you need to make money or want to make money that you can't really focus on what the plan is or your next move or how to pivot this, because I'm so focused on the fact that I feel like I need to make money. I haven't closed anything. I haven't done it. I need to make money. So when I went back to work, it freed up some mental space. Like, okay, your bills are paid. You're back on track. I don't need to focus on the money aspect. Now I could just focus on good service, good business practices, following the business plan, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. Do you think you could have, had you not went back to work and paid off the debt and different things like that, do you think you could have gotten the focus you needed still and put the structure in place and started off on the right track without that going back to work?
If I knew what I know now, I could have, but I needed to hire a mentor. I didn't have anyone that I could call and talk to. And part of the reason why I started my own brokerage was because when I worked, so as a real estate agent, you have to work under a broker. When the brokerage that I was with at the time, my clientele base that looks like me had different challenges. My clients have credit challenges. They have very little down payment money. They come from a family of generational renters in the marketplace.
Oh, generational renters.
Generational renters. So when the brokerage that I was with at the time, when I would talk to management, the team leader, the broker there, and I say, these are my challenges, they couldn't give me the guidance that I needed because they didn't look like me. They didn't work with my average clientele that I work with. So they didn't give me proper instruction on, well, Andrea, you have to dive deep into credit repair solutions and understanding credit to pass that information on. You need to dive deep into down payment assistance programs to help these folks get into homes.
Yeah.
You need to connect with a very well-versed mortgage loan officer that's willing to spend a little extra time with these individuals, that can talk to them in the way that they need to be talked to understand and not talk over their head.
Yes.
So there was no one to give me that guidance. So when I would talk to my broker, like, oh, you should find a different clientele, or, oh, couldn't talk to me the way that I needed to be talked to know the resources that I needed to grab. So part of the reason I wanted to start a brokerage, so I could help people that look like me, that work with clients that look like me, could truly understand what is needed so they can get to a point of making money faster in their business for their family. And
Say
so
it. I'm about to What do they do? Clock it? I don't know. Clock it. Oh, that's clock it.
think right.
Clock it. Okay. You passionate about that thing. I love that.
I'm very passionate about it because I didn't have any help. So it's kind of disheartening being an entrepreneur, being a Black business owner is disheartening that it's hard to work with other Black people and get them to jump on board.
It really is.
We have to be more educated. We have to be more on top of our game. We don't get grace like other folks get in business.
Yes.
And so it's really, really hard.
I love that. And you said something really important. And as a wealth coach, I often talk about real estate being a part of your portfolio. I think it's absolutely critical. Home ownership and, if possible, investing in real estate. I mean, it is a critical piece of your portfolio. So I talk about it all the time. But you talk about not having the mentorship to really help you structure your business in a way that you can help people that are historically divested. The disinvestment, in our community is not there. There's redlining. So the challenges that we face are insurmountable. So you have to do things different.
Yep.
To get the same results.
Yep.
And there was nobody that can say,
nope,
these are the things that you have to pay attention to. That's so awesome because, one of the things that Larissa and I did when we started the firm was we recognized, because we looked for mentorship in our industry and it was very, very difficult to find. Nobody had the framework that we were trying to build. And most people looked at us as competitors and we're like, it's enough business out here for all of us, right?
Yep.
And so we made a lot of mistakes. But one of the things that I love about what we did is we created a board of advisors really early on. Right when we started making the mistakes, we're like, wait a minute, there are people out there, and even if we can't find someone in our industry, we can find people that are successful. And sometimes the recipes to success is not industry agnostic, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be in the industry to teach me how to be successful and avoid pitfalls.
Yes.
So you say you didn't have a mentor, but did you eventually find one? And what was that journey like?
No, when I say we got it out the mud.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Later, probably within the last 5 years. I've been licensed for 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we've had our brokerage now for 10 years. So when I say we got it out the mud, we got it out the mud. So every mistake that could be made, we've made it, been through it, and learned from it.
I call them paid lessons. I pay for lessons every day.
All the time.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of trial and error. So in today's world, it may seem that I have a level of cockiness about myself.
Confidence.
But from someone else looking in, but it is a level of confidence. But I earned that level of confidence because I made sure that I got that proper education. I have a college education. I have my MBA. I'm a real estate broker. I'm a real estate professor. I'm a licensed mortgage loan officer. I have every certification. I'm a HUD housing counselor certified. So I
don't know if I'm doing that right. I'm clocking it right. Clock it.
But that was what was required so I can get to the next level, so I can help lead the people that are alongside me to the level and heights that they need to go to.
I honor that so much. And what's interesting is, like, I earned that. I have the credentials, right? And we were talking about this earlier. It's like people that are coming up on social media now, zero credentials, zero paid lessons. Them and their partner Chat GPT or AI automation is coming out there creating content that's not based off of experience. And you have not only the credentials, you have the experience, you have the paid lessons, you have the success stories, you have all of that. So you can be confident in what you bring to the table. And I want to put an emphasis on Black-owned brokerage firm, okay, with other brokers underneath you. I want to put an emphasis on that because how many Black-owned brokerage firms do you know in Cleveland or beyond Cleveland. Very few.
Very few.
And so we have to, one, invest in our own real estate goals, but do it through a Black-owned brokerage company like Brick House Realty. And I put my money where my mouth is, right? Like, we talk about money being power, but I don't think we understand the extent of how much power we hold as a community. If we just support each other, we can create multi-millionaires. We can create Fortune 500 companies right in our own community if we did it right. So you said something. You said, I'm a real estate professor, I'm a broker, I'm a licensed, like all of that. Talk about the intersection between that education, because I've had you teach at Women Creating Wealth, and people love you. I know you teach at the college. Like, how does teaching play a role in your success as a real estate broker?
I love to teach. I love to teach, and I think part of it is just because I didn't know a lot, and so I love being able to teach others that you don't have to struggle as much if you just have good people around you. And you just said something about the folks who are on social media who may have a lot of followers. And oftentimes people confuse the number of followers with the person that's being knowledgeable, or
they can market really well, but can they sell you a good house and make sure it's a profitable investment?
Exactly. And so many people get caught up because they have a lot of followers, assuming that they do good business, or that they truly understand or that they're actually doing it. Because a lot of people are really good at marketing, but they're not even actually doing the thing that they're saying.
Yeah.
And so I love the education piece of it, because going back to that single mom who's struggling, and I'm teaching you, like, you should own a home, but the way that you can make things a little bit more affordable is to live in a multifamily. You need to buy a little differently. Let the tenant pay and cover your mortgage, so that frees up some cash for you. So now you can take that money that you would be paying for a mortgage and now saving that money and placing it somewhere else, and and investing into the stock market or
an
whatever.
Investment strategy.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that teaching part of it, I think, is so important. So I really enjoy that. And so I've touched and I work in so many areas. People are like, I want to build a business credit. Okay, well, let me teach you how to build business credit, because I do it. I don't really talk about things, or I don't talk about things that I don't live through or I don't do. My daughter, when she bought her car, in a business name, right? So she doesn't have it. My car that I drive, it's in a business name. And I'm gonna tell you the pros and cons when you go that route too. But
right.
But if you have someone that's there to teach you these things, it's all about strategy. And you don't even have to be an entrepreneur to need this type of strategy.
Absolutely.
And entrepreneurship is not for everyone
not at
either.
all.
So it is okay to work that 9 to 5, but we just want to learn how to be smarter with our money and use some of these strategies that millionaires and billionaires are using in their everyday lives, that we can do it too.
Yeah. And you can create wealth working a 9 to 5.
Absolutely.
Using these other vehicles that will continue to help bring you a return on those investments. So takes me to my next question with you, because like I said, I'm working with your daughter. I know I've heard you say several times that your children graduated from college without debt. 2 of your oldest are already in the real estate game. I know there's intentionality about how you're leveraging real estate to help you create generational wealth. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, as far as with the kids?
Just how you're using real estate to build generational wealth in your family.
Well, the biggest piece of it is just creating that passive income and having the monthly rents that come in. So people get real estate fix and flipping and buy and hold, they kind of get it confused. So when you fix and flip a property, that is just building cash capital. That is not creating generational wealth. We need to buy and hold on to the property as a rental property. And even just why you want to buy the property that you live in for tax write-offs, and we want to get that appreciation later on that allows us to do other things in life, right? So, you buy a property. So I'll give my kids an example. They're both in their 20s. They own a property or multiple properties. If they hold on to that property, as a 20-year-old, and when they get 30, the value of these properties, it could have doubled by then, by the time they get to 30s and 40s. And so, or get to a point where their kids are ready to graduate college or go to college. And so now they can pull money from those houses to pay for those college educations. And maybe, someone has children that have already gone through college, but you want to help your grandchildren out. Real estate can allow you to do that. And people get caught up with the mindset of, or ready to put their kids out at 18, or I'm not doing anything. They're going to have to figure out on their own. But it shouldn't be like that. We want to help remove the burden off of our children as much as possible. So we set out that we didn't want our kids to have the burden of college, school fees, and student loan debt. And so our oldest daughter, she went to the military. We kind of sent her down that path. She was with the National Guard. She did 6 years with the National Guard. Well, they pay for your college education. They don't pay for room and board, so we were still responsible for that. But she graduated Kent State with her degree, and she has no student debt.
So amazing.
Our son, sports have always been a part of our life as well. Our son is in college. He plays football. He got a scholarship for football. And so he's wrapping up his final year at Baldwin Wallace College, and he's going to leave there with no student loan debt.
We're talking about legacy.
And our daughter, our youngest, is just entering to college this year. She's at Capital down in Columbus. And the same thing with her. She got a scholarship for basketball. But it goes back to making sure at those younger ages that we were there present and supportive while they were going through this process so that they could get those scholarships. And not everyone is as lucky to get a scholarship. Absolutely. But if our son didn't get the scholarship, he probably would have been going to the National Guard, to have them pay. Or if we didn't have the money to just, pay, or we could have sold a house to get the money, but we just were adamant that they're not going to have the student loan debt.
Yeah, I love that. And so that does start you off on your journey, debt-free, stress-free. And now you're not bogged down with paying your student loans off. So all of those dollars when you get your first job can go into your first investment property or your first home, your multi-unit or whatever. And so your intentionality around creating generational wealth is really about making sure that they don't start life with debt. And making sure they start life with real estate as an investment.
And two things to add in that we did. So a couple things that we did for our kids. When they, at minimum, before they start driving, we made sure we had life insurance policies in place. For like our oldest kids, that was our goal of no later than 16. Now our youngest, he's only 10. He has life insurance, but our goal was by 16 they had to have life insurance in place, and we will transition those policies over to them in time. But so that was number one. Number two, at 16, we also started adding them onto our credit cards so that they could start building a credit profile. So when they turned 18, they already started to have good credit.
Yeah.
So they started out having a high credit score. So now my daughter, she owns her property free and clear. My son, his 2 properties, he has loans on those properties. But he had his credit. When you're getting investment properties, you need at least around a 700 credit score. So because we started that early on, he got his first property. He had just turned 19. Wow. So because his score, we kind of started him off already at 16 with building his credit. When he was 18 or almost 19, ready to buy, his credit score was where it needed to be. So he was able to purchase and get a loan to be able to do that.
Wow. So you talked about three of the critical things that I talk about in building wealth: the right investment in real estate, the right insurance policies, because insurance policies are not just beneficial upon death; they're beneficial throughout life if you get the right products. And you talked about credit, having good credit and maintaining good credit. That's it. You could teach my classes now. But no, as we close, to the person that's listening and saying, I want to start my real estate journey. I'm scared. I don't think I can afford it. I don't know where to start. What advice would you give that person?
I would say that you have to get to a point in life where you do things even when you're scared.
Oh, clock it. I got to get my clock in it right. But no, fear it and do it anyway.
You have to.
Yeah.
And then surround yourself or get connected with the people that are doing the things that you want to do. And then there's plenty of books out there. I am a big book reader, because I didn't touch on that, but that is how I made it through a lot of my struggles. Where I couldn't find that mentor, I went to books, because there are books out there that will talk to your situation. And so read books, find the books on the topic that you want. And YouTube has a video on how to do everything. And if you want to be in real estate, I'm always here to talk. I'm like an open book when it comes to that as well.
Where can somebody find you? I mean, I am encouraging all of our listeners to use Brick House Realty like nobody else. Don't use anybody else. Do you hear how qualified she is? I'm working with her. I know a number of other people that are working with her and doing amazing things. Not only will she help you find the right investment property, she'll help you create the investment strategy.
Yes.
So everybody should use Andrea and her team at Brick House Realty. Now, that was my commercial, but where could the audience find you?
The best place I would say would be on Instagram, and that is she's_a_brickhouse.
she's_a_brickhouse is where you find her. Thanks for tuning in today. This was an amazing conversation. I hope you were educated. I hope that you operate outside of fear, because everything that's great for you is waiting on the other side of fear. So act as a result of hearing all of this great information. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to Money Motivations with Meltrice. We'll see you next time.